Welcome back to Chow Time Pods. Your host, Ray. And video today from Alexander Grace. What?
Basically, during my time on this earth, I have learned that men are literally fucking stupid, like basically brain dead. So it's just better and safer for everyone if I make the decisions and he obeys. I make it very clear that he's in a never-ending probationary period. He knows that if he has one tiny slip up, then I'm out the door. So that just helps to keep him on his best behavior. Cleaning, doing my laundry, those things make him genuinely happy because he's making my life easier. However, for me personally, I get my happiness from going out with friends, going shopping. So those are the things I spend my time doing. He should be deriving all of his happiness from serving me.
I don't even know if this is serious or not. Like, she looks quite deadpan serious, but this is quite dumb.
Money is my money and my money is my money. This one kind of ties into the last one because I genuinely don't understand why a man would need money other than to spend it on his wife or partner. So that one's kind of like common sense. Hopefully those rules can help you if
we don't need to be adults and live on our own. We just need to make money to give to women. I guess that's how exactly women think. Yeah.
You're having trouble finding a healthy relationship.
Some people hear clips like this and they think that's so over the top, so obviously outrageous.
No, I actually think she genuinely fucking wants this, Alex. I can see it in her eyes. This is what she expects and thinks she's gonna be able to achieve in a relationship.
Must be a joke. But when I look to see how women respond to this video, it's very clear to me that they don't see it as a joke. Common sense from start to finish. Girl, I thought you said this was controversial. I don't understand how these could be controversial. I thought this was the law. And then the creator responds, exactly. 31,000 people upvoted that comment, by the way. This is what Jesus truly wanted for us, and I hope you're not kidding because this is the only way that relationships work. So you see, I don't know what's in the creator's head. I don't know what she's thinking. I don't know if she intended this to be a parody or not. I don't know if she was joking. But what this woman believes is not nearly as interesting to me as what her audience believes. If they don't think that this is a joke, then this clip is still highly relevant for understanding our culture, regardless of whether or not it was intended as a parody. And I want to talk about this because recently I've been getting some criticism and I want to engage with it honestly and I want to explain where I'm coming from. Because I talk about feminism a lot and people get suspicious about why I don't talk about what is from their perspective behind feminism. Alexander, why don't you talk about neo-Marxism? Why don't you talk about the fact that early feminism was funded by the CIA? Why aren't you looking into the occult?
Because those things we can't solve. We can't fix those things. We have no control over it. Like, I think the things that Alex talks about, genuinely we can't control majority of the time. Dealing with certain people, understanding how people operate, understanding what they mean when they operate this way, understanding yourself what you mean when you operate a certain way. Those are things within your control that you can change, you can fix. You can't fix the CIA psyop. You can't fix a lot of these other things that they're mentioning now.
Cult and the satanic origins of feminism. Why don't you talk about the Rockefellers or the Ford Foundation? I'm getting these questions more and more often, and in this video I want to give you the honest reason why I don't talk about that stuff. And you might not like it, you might not agree with it, and I have been wrong before. I'm open to changing my mind. You might be able to convince me. But I want to explain where I am currently at, and hopefully hearing where I'm at will also serve to clarify for you where you're at. So this is how I see it. When you're looking at history, you can look at historical events through two different lenses, two different frameworks: intentionalism and structuralism. Those are fancy words. You might not have heard of either of them before, but trust me, you, even without knowing it, you belong to one of these two camps. Your worldview will exist inside one of these frameworks. So what do they mean? Let's talk about intentionalism first. Intentionalism means that to understand a movement or an ideology, you need to look back and understand the intentions of the founders of that movement, the people who designed and created it. So an intentionalist will look at a movement and they will identify who the founders were. They'll read through the founding documents. They'll look into their personal histories. And by reading their plans, understanding their motives, following the money, that's how you understand what the movement truly is. That's when everything...
I don't know how that works with feminism, because what it started off as and what it is now Well, I guess it's very similar.
Comes clear. It's the who did this and why school of historical interpretation. Structuralism is very different. It's the historical interpretation lens that says that movements don't take off and ideas don't become widespread because of the intentions of a few founding individuals.
Correct.
Movements aren't created because certain powerful people bring them into being. Structuralism says that they succeed because of the psychological and social conditions of the masses. It's the why did this resonate with people school of historical interpretation. So when you take a historical event, say like the French Revolution, the intentionalist looks at the motives and the ideas of the thought leaders, the founders of that movement, people like Voltaire, Rousseau. They look at those individuals, they look at their history, their intentions and their motives, and by studying that, they understand what the movement of the French Revolution was. The structuralist sees the French Revolution in a different manner. It looks at the starvation of the population, the bread prices, the fiscal crisis, the class inequality, the living conditions of the peasants. And the structuralist interprets the events that then unfolded not as, the brainchild of Voltaire, but that his ideas became the language that the frustration of the masses spoke through. That's how they expressed their anger, but it wasn't the cause. So it's a case of let's look at the ideas versus let's look at why these ideas were adopted by a population of people. Now, when it comes to my thoughts about feminism and just my general approach to history, I'm sure it's obvious that I am a very committed structuralist. That's how I understand history. And it's not that they're completely mutually exclusive. Obviously, there is room for both. They can coexist, but in my analysis, I definitely emphasize structure over intention. And I don't mind if you disagree. If you're an intentionalist, that's fine. This video is not intended to debunk your method of interpretation. I'm just explaining where I'm coming from so that it's more clear. I want you to know where my biases are, I suppose, so that you can better interpret my work.
That makes sense, right? Like everybody has biases. There's even me. What am I biased? I'm probably biased towards more Asian things because I'm Asian myself, and I grew up very Asian. And I'm probably biased towards American things because I grew up in America and I love America, right? There's just things that we should understand. Yeah, I might have a little bit of bias on, so my opinions might gravitate towards that, but doesn't mean your opinion is going to be wrong in any way. No, just my opinion got shaped by my reality and my circumstance that I grew up in.
I want to be transparent with you as my audience. I think you deserve that. And so now I want to make this more specific. I want to explain why my particular caution when it comes to intentionalism has a real impact on the way that I talk about feminism in my videos. But first, I just briefly want to explain why I choose structuralism, why it works for me. And that's because my primary goal is to make sure that the map, like mentally, that I'm building accurately maps out the territory of reality. That's important to me so that I can understand properly what's going on right now, which is also very useful when it comes to making predictions in the future. Analyzing broad social trends and attitudes and conditions is very useful in this regard because it can be measured and is falsifiable.
This is what I said. It's very controllable. You can see these things. You know the numbers, you can readjust your life accordingly. Where the other one where you're looking at the founders and all this stuff, great that you know all of this, but does it really help you out in any way in the current stance of what's going on? That's why I'm very similar to how Alex sees it. No, I want to be able to at least adjust myself or fix something of myself when it comes to this. So yeah, practical kind of makes sense.
Structuralism, you can test theories on a widespread scale and look at what kind of outcomes social conditions actually generate. And that's really great feedback, that you can use to see if your map is accurate and you can make revisions. It's useful because it grounds the explanations for social movements in real human psychology. It's tangible in that way, and it forces me to actually engage with what human beings are thinking and feeling and keeps me connected to the human condition. It helps me track how the culture is evolving, people's behavior, and the incentive structures and social conditions that are playing out, which will then create patterns that...
Right. The incentive structures of society nowadays are not the same as 50 years ago. 50 years ago, it was family. It was the family unit, getting a corporate job, doing your thing. Now it's side hustles, social media. It's different.
That can be tracked and documented. And I think that it works particularly well for me because it creates a synergy between, psychological principles and cultural analysis, which is how I think anyway. That's just what comes naturally to me. My personal psychological understanding, just gets extrapolated to help me understand humanity and culture as a whole. So you can see that for someone who thinks the way that I do, all the reasons why structuralism is very, very appealing. It gives me a lot in terms of interpreting reality that intentionalism just doesn't. Because from my perspective, when you focus on the elites who are pushing the ideas and focusing on what their motives are, you run the risk of exaggerating the importance and the influence of those elite people and overlooking the psychological condition of the population of people who actually bring these movements into being. I just find that with the intentionalist framework, reality looks more like a few grand chess players and everyone else is just pawns. Because if the elites are directing everything, then everything else...
I think a lot of people think that way. I speak with a lot of people that always say, it's the elites that control everything. So that mindset, that the origins of everything, a lot of people think that way. And I don't think it's a bad way to think about, because there are quite a few elites that do have their hands in everything. But we also have agency, and we can't control the elites, but we can control the numbers and the statistics around us and mold the things around us.
Else is just kind of inconsequential. And to me, that creates a moral hazard of encouraging conspiracy thinking and conspiracy explanations as opposed to a genuine system analysis. It also has quite a unique way of changing the way that you interact and relate to regular people that you meet on the street, because you're kind of, in engaging in the thoughts of like the elites, you sort of elevate yourself to imagine that you're kind of like these people, whereas everybody else is just kind of like an NPC, which is very deleterious for your view of humanity and your relationships with individual people.
No, a lot of people see it that way. I hear the word NPC all the time. I don't use it that often. It's kind of a weird derogatory term to call people like mindless, AI in a sense. That's what NPCs are.
Talk more about how that plays out in part 2 of this video, which is available on Patreon. But let me tell you the main reason why this idea of the elites kind of running everything, that the whole world is just made up of a few select CEOs and politicians and bankers and military generals and cultural elites, and why that's never appealed to me as an explanation of like, you just need to think about what those people are thinking, then you'll understand everything. The reason that doesn't resonate with me is because there is no shortage of ideas that those people are pushing at any one moment. There's all kinds of thought leaders and elites who have agendas, and they're desperately pushing, for the adoption of their particular point of view. And they're often competing with each other, trying to, out-edge each other so that their worldview, their agenda is the one that takes off. But for all of the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of ideas and agendas that thought leaders and elites are pushing on the population, they're not all going to be adopted. 99.999% of them just get thrown in the bin. They don't get adopted. And the reason for that...
Damn, he's not wrong, is he? Right? I'm sure the elites, if they are elites, which I'm not doubting it, really do have a lot of things in mind that they want to control, but not everything takes. That makes sense.
That, to me, is something that intentionalism can't really answer. The question of there's a buffet of agendas and ideas to choose from, so why did these ideas take off and why did the others not? So take communism, for example. Like if you wanted to understand how communism played out in the 20th century, do you look at the writings of Karl Marx? Is that what's going to help you understand Cambodia and China and Vietnam and Russia and Cuba? Do you accurately understand the history of those countries by looking at Karl Marx and understanding his history, his bias?
You really don't. Thank you, Alex, for mentioning Cambodia. It's interesting how communism really took hold in my country and in the countries that he mentioned, and in Cuba. Like, my baker is Cuban. We literally sponsored him to come to the United States. We paid for sponsorship. He had to go to Mexico. He stayed in Mexico for a year and then finally got asylum to come over here. We paid for all the paperwork. Now he is a permanent resident. He hates communism. He grew up in Cuba. He barely got out of Cuba now. His family is still in Cuba. He has to send money back all the time, and it's ridiculous. The people that grew up in communism are the ones that truly understand communism, I think. Well, at least they understand the consequences. They may not understand communism, but they understood their life fucking sucks because of it.
His motives, his intentions, the agenda of that one particular man. I mean, maybe like to a certain extent, like I'm not denying it completely, that does have its place, but I think that it's important to consider all of the things that Karl Marx did advocate, that he did push for, that never got adopted. He wanted the state, like the very idea of a state, to be abolished. He wanted internationalism over nationalism. He wanted the revolution to come from industrial workers. In China, it came from farmers and peasants. He wanted the communist revolution to be spearheaded by regular people, not intellectual elites. They weren't meant to be the vanguard. He didn't want like a cult of personality for any communist leaders to emerge. But the communism that Karl Marx wrote about was not the communism that the world got. Why? It's because of the structuralist explanation. Those particular ideas did not resonate with the masses of the people. What did survive from his writings was the notion of class warfare. That resonated. People liked the grievance politics. People felt the emotional investment in ideas of fairness and equality. But from the structuralist perspective, those ideas did not survive due to the willpower of Karl Marx. They survived because they resonated with the conditions of the masses on the ground, with the wider population. That's why communism ended up looking very different in practice than it did in theory. It actually wasn't the heavily industrialized countries of Western Europe that became communist. It was largely agrarian societies like Russia and China, and they became fiercely nationalistic and developed cults of personality for the leaders. The intentionalist explanation can't really answer things like that. And there's this human tendency to sort of like mythologize people from the past simply because they lived a long time ago. We exaggerate how special and important they were. But the reason why we exaggerate their significance is because of survivor bias. We don't pay attention to the predictions that they got wrong or the ideas that they had that never took off. We focus on the few things that that person got correct, that did resonate with people, and then we treat them like they were some kind of holy prophet. But that's not foresight necessarily. That's just us right now in the modern day doing retroactive like pattern matching. Anyway, like I said, you can disagree, but that's the way that I see it. And so now let's ground this.
This is why I think I really like Alex. I think I'm very similar in the thought process as how he kind of sees about everything. As he explains how he views the world or how he views ideas, I think back myself, yeah, I think I view it very similar. I don't really care about the base of how things started or who's controlling what. I want to see what it operates now, how it operates now, what is it doing now, how did it get here, right?
This discussion in the context of my channel.
Girls should be getting a paycheck every single month from the government for simply just existing.
No, of course they shouldn't. But I've had people ask me, well, why do you feature clips of women like this? Why do you show clips of women just getting interviewed on the street, just everyday regular women? If you want to criticize feminism as an ideology, why don't you go and talk to the university professors, the ones who are really at the forefront of this whole feminism thing? But do you now understand from my framework why that would be pointless? I don't actually care how some disconnected academic in some ivory tower university setting, I don't care.
We have no control over those people anyways. They have more clout, power, money, and time than us to push their agenda.
What she thinks about feminism or what she writes about it, that's irrelevant. I'm interested in regular women, the sort of woman that you're likely to have a relationship with. I care what she thinks. I want to understand the psychology of your ex-girlfriend, what her motives, her intentions, her bias are. What's relevant to me and this channel is what she thinks feminism is. Did Christina Hoff Sommers have some secret radical agenda for feminism? Was Gloria Steinem funded by the CIA? I don't know. I don't know the answer to those questions. And if you're asking me that, I'm guessing that you're better informed on the specifics of that than I am. So if this whole thing is some neo-Marxist satanic agenda that intelligence agencies have been planning and the elites have had this intention for a long time, that feminism represents some much darker agenda, I'm not going to deny it, because my honest truth is I don't know. But I can't personally bring myself to really care too much about the answers to those questions.
See, this is right. This is exactly it. I care about me and mine. I don't give a fuck about Karl Marx. He's fucking dead. I don't give a fuck about a lot of these people. I care about me and mine. The people around me, how they operate, how they interact with the world, how the world interacts with them. Right? That's where I want to know. I want to learn. I want to fix. I want to be able to have a little bit more control or agency over. I have no agency of the past. I really don't. Like, I can't change anything, nor of me understanding fully everything in the past is going to really change anything in the present. No, I'd rather be able to understand what's going on in the present.
Because you understand, from my framework, that's essentially irrelevant. What a few individuals or secret societies intended when they created a movement is not very interesting to me and what my purpose is, which is to make things better for you guys, to help you understand the women in your lives. I'm interested to know why their ideas managed to take hold, why they got picked up by the wider population. But if you are an intentionalist, let me offer some unsolicited advice, but I would personally advise a lot of caution. Using secondhand material like old writings to try and map what somebody's felt experiences, what their secret motives and intentions were, is very far from a precise science. The potential you have for projecting your own fears and anxieties into their writing is extremely high, very difficult to guard against. This is unfortunately where a lot of conspiratorial explanations can get born from, is not from an actual uncovering of the truth, but from the projection of fears onto a set of reasonably neutral circumstances. And again, of course, conspiracies exist. I'm not saying that
Hey, a lot of them end up being true too. I'm not saying that either.
I'm just saying there is a moral hazard with the intentionalist approach that you are well served to be cautious of inside your own psychology if that's the route that you're going down. And I think that it's very important, at least in the context of feminism, that you are aware that the sort of feminism that we are witnessing and experiencing today is actually very different from the feminism that was intended for us. It's basically unrecognizable what we have right now from the kind of feminism that was being espoused.
That is also why I don't care about the past. The past is equality, blah, blah, blah. No, I care about now, which is man-hating ideology that is affecting my boys. And my boys, I mean all of you guys. Like all the men that I know, all the men that watch me, all the men that are like within my arm's reach, that touch me in some way. And like, I'm not talking about like gross wise. I'm just talking about like just connections wise. It's important to me because why? I'm a man. I've gone through these things. If I think I can help readjust some things or maybe give you a little bit of information to readjust your course slightly and just to give you a better trajectory. That's all I care about, is men's trajectory to be better, to be betterly happy, to be more content, hopefully make more money, have families, have kids, if you want those things. That's what I want.
By feminist thought leaders when the movement was in its infancy. Did you know that the original feminists wanted to abolish the family as an institution? That's what feminism meant to the thought leaders, but the masses never went along with it. They never adopted that idea. They
didn't adopt the idea, but that idea still permeates though, doesn't it?
To abolish gender itself, but that also never took off. They tried to push for all women to become lesbians, but that wasn't popular. And they were skeptical that women should even seek to be beautiful. And they said that pornography was an expression of the patriarchy. But when it comes to beauty and porn, we all know that the thought leaders lost that battle. The average feminist on the street still wants to feel pretty, still wants to wear cute dresses and put on makeup, and many of them are doing OnlyFans. Pornography pornography has been rebranded as an expression of feminist empowerment. That didn't come from any thought leaders. That came from the masses, women wanting to get easy money by taking off their clothes. If you actually read what the original feminists wanted, what the society was that they tried to create, you'll read that they wanted the complete abolishment of capitalism. That was mainstream feminism.
That I did know.
For a long time, but they couldn't get the average woman on board. Why? Because women like stuff. They're actually quite materialistic, and capitalism kind of depends upon female consumers now. They're very predictable. They like to shop. They like to buy things. And so feminism doesn't reflect that anymore. It no longer tries to abolish.
This is why when you think of businesses and you want to open up businesses, I think you should almost always tailor it towards women. Like when it comes to clothes, food, when you make food, just make it a little prettier so women can take Instagram pictures. That's exactly what I'm doing. Like I have some like donuts coming in the works, or just like fancier donuts. I have like some pistachio cream that just, a nice green color cream that just, kind of frost colors things. So that's made just for the women market, in my opinion. Like where the normal market is straight up good tasting basic donuts. That's men. Men just want good things, and they want good things consistently.
Capitalism. Instead, it's trying to take it over and trying to install women at the head of all the capitalist institutions, put them on the boards of major corporations, put them as the CEOs. Feminists no longer want to abolish money. They want to be the ones that have all the money. And while you can always find a few quotes from the early feminists that seem like a prophecy, seems like the perfect foreshadowing and prediction of what's happening right now, I would just say a broken clock is always going to be right twice a day. And I think that if you knew and really understood how much of the original feminist framework was just abandoned, how little of the feminist agenda was actually adopted by the masses, I think you would see why I think it's a lot safer to take a structuralist approach to this whole thing. Because ultimately, it doesn't really matter what was behind an idea or what the true motive was. What matters is why an idea would be adopted. What matters is why it resonates with people. That's what's relevant. And it's important to understand that right now, in this present moment, there is a similar war going on from thought leaders and elites who are trying to promote their ideas and advance their agendas, and everyone's desperately trying to get you to adopt their perspective. And each person who's putting forth these ideas, they have motives, they have an agenda. That is absolutely
No, I have motives. I have agendas. Families. That'd be nice.
It's just not as interesting to me what that individual person's agenda might be as considering why thousands, millions of people might potentially adopt that idea, why it resonates for them. So essentially, this is kind of my explanation for why what this individual woman truly believes is not as important to me as what do the thousands or millions of women watching her content.
They agree, and that's exactly what they want. Like the more outrageous it seems that women make videos about, the more co-signing that other women give to it and kind of jump on board.
Tend to believe. And I really don't mind if you disagree with me. I hope that you don't only watch
Well, there's plenty of times I've disagreed with Alex. I just don't really say it that much, but most of the time I agree with Alex because I tell the truth, Alex is fucking smarter than my ass. And when he brings up ideas and things, I just think of those ideas and how those ideas operate in my brain. And most of the time, it logically tracks.
Content on YouTube that you 100% agree with. I'm hoping that you'll appreciate me taking the time to tell you where I'm coming from so that you know where my biases are. I'm trying to be transparent. And like I said, both intentionalism and structuralism have their place. They're both parts of the explanation. And this
is exactly why I explained to you guys, I came from a wonderful family. My family is fucking awesome. This is why I advocate for family so much, because even though my mother and father are separated and later in life, I've seen the wonderful things they were able to do together, build together, the businesses, the millions of dollars all my aunts were able to make together with their husbands, just working hard. And the way they raise their kids, and all their kids are all my cousins having kids, and all these wonderful things. My family just grows exponentially every year. Like when I first came to this country, it was only my aunts and then my cousins. There wasn't that many of us. I think there was about 20 something, about 30-ish of us. Now there's like 100 and something of us. Family. And again, I always tell you guys, like, it's so hard for me to push for it because when I watch videos like this, and then there's like, man, I'd rather you guys just protect yourselves than put yourselves in danger to try to achieve what my idealistic brain thinks of family, right? Because I see it. I experience the great side of family, but I'm sure a lot of people experience the bad side of family. And there's a bad side. I know there is, because I have friends that experience that side all the time.
We disagree. I'm guessing that it's mostly just a matter of emphasis. I emphasize structure over intention, and that's why you're going to see me spend more time analyzing the psychology of everyday women than of any kind of thought leader elite.
No, it makes sense. I agree with Alex, and I appreciate that he goes to regular degular women. That's what I want to go towards, is regular degular guys. Like, guys, work harder, do well. The people that are elites, the people, the men that are doing well in life and stuff, I don't care so much about you because you guys are doing well. Hopefully you guys know what you're doing already. It's the guys that don't, the guys that are barely starting, the guys that just got divorced, the guys that just got broken up with, the guys that are barely picking themselves up, the guys that are just trying to crawl out of a ditch. Those are the men, like, damn, hopefully we can get to those guys.
Type people. I'm not saying that there aren't shadowy elite people who have nefarious agendas. I absolutely believe that they exist. That's just never going to be my primary focus. Okay, let's quickly recap. In part one, I've talked about why I use the framework of structuralism over intentionalism to understand history. In part two, I want to go into more depth on the kind of moral hazards that get introduced if you go too far down the intentionalist framework. If you're somebody who enjoys conspiracy theories, like all power to you, but if you've also been shown to be foolish or naive and falling for something you probably shouldn't have, I think you'll benefit from my video because I'm going to break it down in such a way that gives you some guardrails where you can still, explore conspiracy theories, but to make sure that you always stay grounded in what's actually provable in reality.
Shout outs to Alex. I love his videos. Destro is up there. Him and Destro are my top two. I watch all of their videos. Hey, if you want to learn more and more in depth about a lot of these things, and you're curious about your own mind, go to his Patreon, go to his membership, watch the other videos. They're actually very good. Again, I don't really promote other people's things. Hell, I don't even really promote my own shit that much, But when I see value for $5, it's quite valuable. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. I really appreciate that, and catch you guys next time. Ciao.